Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're talking about one of the most shocking and heartbreaking stories connected to 90 Day Fiancé. Jenny Slatin and Sumit Singh were once seen as proof that love could overcome anything. Age differences, cultural barriers, family pressure, nothing seemed strong enough to break them. But behind the cameras, a very different story was unfolding. To the public, Jenny and Sumit looked happy. Their love story inspired millions. But according to confidential sources, Sumit was hiding a dark secret. While married to Jenny, he was allegedly involved in multiple romantic relationships with other women. He wasn't just a husband. He was living a double life. Sources claim Sumit met other women in secret. There were quiet dinners at restaurants, late-night meetups, and private conversations Jenny knew nothing about. Each meeting added another layer of betrayal. And that wasn't the end of it. Reports also say Sumit became deeply involved in online gambling. His losses reportedly reached nearly $270,000. When he failed to repay the debt, a lawsuit was filed and he was later arrested. For Jenny, everything collapsed at once. The lies, the cheating, the financial disaster. Overwhelmed and heartbroken, she made the hardest decision of her life. She divorced Sumit Singh. But Jenny's story did not end there. After the pain and betrayal, she found love again. She later became engaged to a man named Jacob, opening a new chapter filled with hope and healing. Before all the scandal and heartbreak, there was real love. Jenny Slatin, a kind and warm woman from California, met Sumit Singh, a younger man from India, through social media. What started as casual conversations slowly turned into a deep, emotional connection. Despite an age gap of nearly 30 years, they bonded over shared feelings, laughter, and dreams of a future together. Their connection grew stronger, and Jenny made a life-changing decision. She left her home, her family, and everything familiar in the United States to move to India to be with Sumit. Viewers of 90 Day Fiancé The other way watched their journey closely. Cultural differences, family rejection, and constant obstacles stood in their way. Still, Jenny stayed. She faced loneliness, isolation, and financial struggles just to be with the man she loved. Sumit promised her commitment and a future together. Against all odds, they eventually married. Many fans believe their story was proof that true love could survive anything. Distance, culture, age, and family pressure didn't seem strong enough to break them. But when the cameras stopped rolling, cracks began to appear. Jenny believed her marriage was built on honesty. She trusted Sumit completely. She had given up her entire life for him and believed her love was enough to overcome any challenge. Then small things began to change. Sumit started taking late-night phone calls. He became secretive with his phone. He left the house at odd hours and offered vague excuses. Jenny noticed he was growing distant. He was less affectionate and more distracted. At first, she ignored the signs. She told herself that marriage had difficult moments and that stress might be the reason. She wanted to believe in him. But rumors began to surface. Neighbors claimed they saw Sumit at restaurants with women Jenny had never met. Sources whispered that he was meeting women in secret while telling Jenny he was working or with friends. Jenny struggled to believe it. After everything she had sacrificed, betrayal seemed impossible. Still, the signs were everywhere. Friends quietly questioned his behavior. Why was he unreachable at night? Why did he guard his phone so closely, even taking it into the bathroom? Why did his explanations sound rehearsed? Soon, screenshots of late-night messages allegedly sent by Sumit began circulating online. Photos appeared showing him dining with other women. With every new detail, the image of their perfect marriage started to fall apart. Jenny tried to protect her heart. She told herself it was gossip. She believed people were jealous of their relationship. But deep down, doubt was growing. And eventually, the truth became impossible to ignore. According to sources close to the situation, Sumit wasn't just seeing one woman. He was involved with several at the same time. While Jenny believed she was his only partner, he was making promises to others. One woman said he met her in quiet cafes and spoke about a future together. Another said he took her to popular restaurants, but always chose hidden corners. A third claimed she saw him with a younger woman, laughing and holding hands in public. The pattern was clear. Sumit was living two lives, one as a devoted husband beside Jenny, and another as a single man pursuing other relationships. For Jenny, the pain was unbearable. She had stood by him through rejection, criticism, and hardship. Discovering that he had been unfaithful shattered her trust completely. What shocked many people was how bold he seemed to be. He was seen in public places using his own phone, acting as if he would never be caught. Screenshots and eyewitness accounts continued to surface, revealing affectionate messages and intimate moments. As the truth came out, the fairy tale completely collapsed. And just as the cheating scandal came to light, another shocking revelation followed. Money. According to reports, Sumit was deeply involved in online gambling. His debt grew out of control. The pressure mounted as he failed to repay what he owed. Eventually, legal action was taken against him, leading to his arrest. By then, Jenny had reached her breaking point. The betrayal, the lies, and the financial chaos were too much. She walked away from the marriage, choosing herself after years of sacrifice. Though her journey was filled with pain, it did not end in tragedy. Jenny later found happiness again. She moved forward, healed, and opened her heart to love once more. Her engagement to Jacob marked a fresh start and a reminder that even after deep heartbreak, new beginnings are possible. He often arrived first, carefully scanning the room before choosing a corner table far from the entrance. Minutes later, a woman would join him. Sometimes she dressed casually, other times in elegant outfits that suggested a romantic night out. They laughed quietly, leaned in close, and ordered meals that lasted for hours. One restaurant owner, who asked to remain anonymous, said Sumit became a regular customer, but never with the same companion. He always requested a table far from the entrance and never stayed less than 2 hours. It was clear he did not want to be recognized. Another witness described a moment that stood out deeply. Sumit was sitting across from a woman, gently holding her hand, while Jenny was at home waiting for him. For those who once admired his loyalty, the image was haunting. At home, Jenny began to notice patterns. Sumit would leave in the evenings with vague explanations about work, family matters, or errands. He often returned late at night, smelling faintly of food or perfume. When Jenny asked questions, his answers came too quickly, almost rehearsed. It became clear these were not business dinners or innocent outings. They were dates, carefully hidden from Jenny but obvious to anyone paying attention. As the secret meetings continued, Sumit grew more confident and careless. He believed he could maintain his marriage while pursuing other relationships. He did not realize that the consequences of his actions were building rapidly. Behind the candlelit dinners and whispered promises, he was hiding another secret, one far more dangerous than infidelity. This secret had nothing to do with love, and everything to do with money and addiction. While eyewitness accounts hinted at betrayal, it was the digital evidence that confirmed it. For a long time, Jenny trusted Sumit completely. She never checked his phone or questioned his private conversations. She believed trust meant giving space. But as rumors grew louder, his phone became impossible to ignore. According to sources close to the couple, Sumit guarded his phone obsessively. He slept with it under his pillow, carried it into the bathroom, and became defensive when Jenny asked simple questions. His behavior raised more suspicion than reassurance. Then the leaks began. Screenshots started circulating among people who knew them. The messages were allegedly between Sumit and other women. They were filled with affectionate nicknames, heart emojis, and plans for secret meetings. One message read, "I can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Don't worry, she'll never know." The most damaging evidence came in the form of photos. Images surfaced showing Sumit dining at upscale restaurants with women who were clearly not Jenny. In one photo, he leaned across the table, smiling warmly while holding the hand of a woman in a red outfit. Another photo showed him walking out of a mall with shopping bags beside a younger woman. These images spread quickly, not just among friends, but across online fan forums. The couple once celebrated as proof that love could conquer all was now at the center of scandal. Fans who admired their devotion began questioning everything. Jenny, devastated, confronted Sumit. Instead of honesty, she received excuses. He claimed the photos were innocent and the messages misunderstood. But the evidence was too consistent and too overwhelming to ignore. Behind every exposed message and leaked photo was a man who had promised Jenny a lifetime, while secretly living another life. And as painful as this betrayal was, it was only the beginning. Because the same phone that revealed his affairs would also expose something far darker. While the messages confirmed his infidelity, Sumit was hiding another secret even more destructive. It began quietly. Jenny noticed strange charges on their shared accounts. Small withdrawals and unexplained payments appeared. When she asked, Sumit brushed it off, saying he was paying a friend or covering small expenses. Wanting to trust him, Jenny let it go. Behind the scenes, a serious problem was growing. According to confidential sources, Sumit had developed an addiction to online gambling. What started as casual betting on poker and roulette apps slowly turned into obsession. Late into the night, he placed larger and larger bets, believing the next one would fix everything. The thrill of gambling became his escape from stress, responsibility, and guilt. But every win pushed him to bet more, and every loss drove him deeper into desperation. Within months, the debt became massive. Sumit had accumulated nearly $270,000 in gambling losses. Creditors began calling. Online platforms froze his accounts. He borrowed money from friends, pawned valuables, and used funds Jenny believed were being saved for their future. When Jenny finally realized the truth, she was crushed. She had sacrificed everything to build a stable life with him, only to discover that stability never existed. The addiction explained everything. The late-night phone use, the missing money, and even some secret restaurant meetings, which were not romantic at all but connected to people tied to his debts. Gambling left a clear paper trail, and it did not stay hidden for long. Soon, the problem became public. Creditors pursued legal action. Lawsuits were filed against Sumit for unpaid balances. The situation escalated quickly, turning a private failure into a public scandal. Jenny learned the full extent of the disaster when a creditor showed up at their door, demanding repayment and holding documents listing Sumit's name and the amount owed. In that moment, Jenny's world collapsed. She had left her country and her safety behind for love, only to find herself trapped in betrayal and debt. The $270,000 was more than money. It represented broken trust, lost years, and shattered dreams. The couple once admired for their perseverance was now drowning in scandal and financial ruin. As legal battles intensified, Sumit faced the consequences of his choices. The man who once appeared devoted and charming on television was now confronted with lawsuits, exposure, and a future forever changed by deception. The legal pressure mounted quickly. Court notices arrived one after another, each more serious than the last. Sumit could no longer hide behind excuses or vague explanations. The debt was documented, the evidence was clear, and the consequences were unavoidable. Creditors demanded repayment, and legal authorities stepped in when deadlines were missed. What once felt like a private collapse inside their home had now become a very public reckoning. Jenny watched everything unravel in disbelief. The man she had defended for years, the man she had chosen over comfort, family, and stability, was no longer recognizable. Each day brought a new revelation, another lie exposed, another problem added to the pile. She felt trapped, not just emotionally, but practically. She was far from home, with limited resources, facing a situation she never imagined. As the case progressed, Sumit was taken into custody in connection with the unpaid gambling debts and legal complaints filed against him. The arrest was brief but devastating. News spread quickly through their community and across online forums. The story that once inspired millions had now turned into a cautionary tale. Jenny felt the weight of public scrutiny, but more than that, she felt exhaustion. Emotional exhaustion. Mental exhaustion. The kind that comes after fighting for too long. When Jenny visited Sumit after his arrest, the conversation was short and painful. There were no dramatic apologies, no convincing explanations. Just silence, shame, and the realization that everything they built was based on half-truths. In that moment, Jenny understood something clearly for the first time. Love alone could not fix this. Sacrifice alone was not enough. The decision did not come easily, but it came firmly. Jenny chose to divorce Sumit. It was the hardest choice she had ever made, but also the most necessary. Ending the marriage meant accepting that the dream she chased for years was over. It meant grieving not only the man she loved, but the future she believed in. The divorce process was emotionally draining. Paperwork replaced promises. Legal discussions replaced late-night talks. Jenny felt a deep sense of loss, but also a strange sense of relief. For the first time in years, she was no longer waiting, hoping, or defending someone who kept hurting her. She was choosing herself. After the separation, Jenny made the decision to step away from everything that reminded her of the pain. She left the shared home, distanced herself from the chaos, and focused on survival. Some days were harder than others. There were moments of regret, moments of anger, and moments when she questioned everything. But slowly healing began. She reconnected with friends and family who had worried about her for years. Conversations that were once tense became supportive. Jenny allowed herself to be vulnerable, to admit that she had been wrong, and that she had been hurt deeply. Instead of judgment, she found understanding. Instead of shame, she found strength. Time passed. The noise of the scandal faded, and so did the constant stress. Jenny began rebuilding her life piece by piece. She focused on her health, her independence, and her sense of self. She rediscovered parts of herself that had been buried under years of compromise and emotional strain. Then, unexpectedly, someone new entered her life. His name was Jacob. He was kind, calm, and consistent. There were no secrets, no dramatic promises, no chaos. Just honesty and respect. At first, Jenny was cautious. Her past had taught her painful lessons. She took things slowly, protecting her heart while allowing herself to feel hope again. Jacob listened. He did not judge her past or rush her healing. He supported her without trying to control her. For Jenny, this was new. Love no longer felt like a battle. It felt safe. It felt steady. Over time, their connection deepened into something meaningful. When Jacob proposed, it was not flashy or dramatic. It was sincere, a quiet moment filled with emotion and relief. For Jenny, the engagement symbolized more than love. It represented survival, growth, a second chance at happiness she once believed she did not deserve. Looking back, Jenny's journey was marked by sacrifice, pain, and resilience. She loved deeply, trusted fully, and suffered greatly. But she also found the strength to walk away when staying meant losing herself completely. Her story became one of transformation rather than tragedy. As for Sumit, his downfall served as a reminder of how deception and addiction can destroy everything in their path. The double life, the gambling, the lies, all of it led to irreversible consequences. What began as secrecy ended in exposure. What began as thrill ended in loss. Jenny's story, however, did not end there. It continued forward, shaped by lessons learned the hard way. She emerged wiser, stronger, and more grounded. No longer defined by betrayal, she reclaimed her identity and her future. This was not just a story about scandal. It was a story about choice, about knowing when to fight and when to let go, about understanding that love should not cost your peace, your safety, or your self-worth. And in the end, Jenny chose peace.